Welcome everyone to this painting session on the Plaguecaster from the new V8 box set for 40k. A big thank you to the Warg Tavern for its support that gave me that box, and don't hesitate to join us on Patreon to support my videos. Now, let's get painting. For this Psyker, I base coated him with camo green. Then I based all the brown with matte earth and all the metals with weapon bronze. With the airbrush, I come in and apply some Flesh 2 from Pro Color on all the clothes. This color let me put some lives on all the fabrics and also on all the skin and flesh, while giving a nice contrast to the piece in its entirety. There I'm looking to add some more light with a very transparent paint. Wait for each one of the coats to dry, otherwise you will have a tendency to rip it off, rip the previous one, so it's important. Once those highlights are done, I come back on the shadows with some reddish brown. It's Sienna Earth from the Pro Color range, and it lets me darken the weapon's extremity there. It also helps me lay down some shadows on the rest of the miniature. It will give a somewhat nasty effect on certain areas and give the piece a bit more life and a nice effect as well. I never hesitate to insist, but I will repeat myself, but never stay on a single point. Always turn the mini around to give the layers some time to dry. This is a key element to getting a good aspect with the airbrush. I then come back on the shadows with some coffee to give even more depth to certain areas I want to be even more dark. Sorry. Every time you pass, you want to touch a smaller zone with the area. So this, with this transparency of the veil of paint you're putting, will create a natural transition and will give you very nice shadows and a very smooth finish as well. Once again, those steps are very important. I did it on several models to gain some time, but usually the steps are quite fast. So I often treat them in batches of 3 that you can't see on the video because I focus on the Plaguecaster. Then I come with a blood red juice to give some life to the flesh. It was a bit too dull to my taste, so I wanted to stand out a bit more from the green of the armor. It's quite important to have contrast in between each of the different things of the mini. So I don't hesitate to highly thin it down. That's why I call it a juice. And when it dries, it will become more light. I then come back with some dark tone wash from Army Painter. This is to give the areas I choose some nice distinctions. You can use any other wash really, but this one is very good because it crushes the light quite brilliantly. And it will help us gain some separation in between the zones we want, and we will have very distinct zones thanks to that. I use it quite liberally for it to darken the recesses and tap it a bit everywhere. The idea is to have it fall in the recesses. On certain zone I use a thin down wash to not crush the light as much and give even more contrast. I strongly recommend this wash because it's almost magic. You can find it on the Eden website now, as they started selling it by the pot. Once everything is dry and the wash is set, I take some time to come back with Sienna Earth to add some more distinction in the areas I want. So for instance, on all the horns. So there, as you can see, on the small space, I use a technique I was using on my Lost and Damned from El Dorado, a game that no longer exists, that consists in stretching the shadows with some orange to give it an almost chitinous aspect. So I'm going to use this technique by pushing my zone and boosting my brown with red. As you might have noticed, with all the inks used, my lights got a bit dull, so I come back with red, just like before, to give them a boost there, for example, on the flesh. Don't hesitate to tap the paint thoroughly to give the color a good intensity. Then I will start on the kind of puff that comes out of his mouth with a turquoise from Pocolor, to pass several juices on the part that was darkened with the airbrush. We darkened it with coffee color when we started. Don't hesitate to use a very liquid juice for it to flow in the recesses. There, I come back with Scaly Green from Valero Game Color range. Again, this is a very thin down juice. This time, I use it on the base of the projectile. So this is also the green I will use on the weapons for the oxidation of the copper. Well, not the weapons, all the bronze areas. So I'll put some on all the armor areas to weather them as well, as you can see there. I'll then come back with yellow-green from Valero color range as well. This is done to highlight my greens. This let me push the paint to highlight and create a nice light intensity on the greens. As always, I'm careful as to where I highlight, putting the accent on a specific facet of where I want the light to be. I always stretch the paint on certain zone, finishing where I want the more paint. The more I progress, the lighter my brushstrokes get. The idea is to gain intensity as we go towards the final point of light. I will then proceed the same way, but with a dark angel green. A dark green that I will use on the shadows this time. This green won't be dull, it's just dark, so it still has some quite light to it. It's not a desaturated green per se. So one day I'll do a special session about the colors where I explain some of those terms. It's a bit overdue. I need to get on with that. There are a lot of terms I use regularly that lacks clarity for some of you. So as you can see, I'm putting my shadows slowly but surely on all the areas I want to be a bit more, to be darker. To simplify, while editing, I won't show you the processes I have already shown, but I always do them several times. There, for the sake of showing you, I am coming back with yellow-green to add contrast. I won't always show it on the videos, but understand I always do it. Usually several times on the mini because it is very important. I usually turn the mini around the paint. Well, no, I usually turn the mini, that way the paint I let down will have time to dry. So now I will continue lighting my bright areas with ivory. to contrast my colors even more. So all the edges, all the zones that needs, or you feel needs some light. I also come back on, for example, the bowels or the flesh, because the ivory will be very nice on those colors. The ivory I speak of is the Valero one. It's a very nice color, it's very useful. I use it even on the green, as you can see. This is my go-to paint to add light to every colors, almost. I will also come back on the weird zone on his feet right there with Sienna Earth. So I noticed too late that those were mutated areas to give them an insectoid look, so I kind of forgot to paint them. So I use Cyan Earth, and I will then come back with more and more orange in it to give the character his shittiness aspect that suits him quite well, just like on the horns before. It's always nice to have a reference close by and to see where you are. Here is what I want to achieve. The video of this one is already up, for example. I would like to thank the Warg Tavern again for the sponsorship of this video. A big thank you to them. You will soon be able to support me as a professional on Patreon. If you have a shop, you'll be able to monthly support me. The link will be in the description for all the details, for example. So there, I use turquoise on all the pipes. Then I will add some ivory to this color to start creating a glowing effect to have the recesses lighter than the others. Once the turquoise is done, I will come back with black to accentuate the contrast on my spice. For example, on the extremity, sorry. This will give me a more lifelike look. This will give more realism to it. So once again, I come back with yellow-green on certain areas to take my green even further. I want it to stand out and catch the eye because it's a very important part of the mini. So there I focus on the more visible zones and the zones that I want to stand out even more. I will let the recesses be a little more dull thanks to the ink we used previously. Once those lights have set, I come back with black to differentiate all my areas and gain readability on the whole miniature. So there the video is sped up, but you want to take your time on this step as you can easily mess up if you are not neat enough. So go easy, but it's important to enhance your shadows. So I use an airbrush black there. It will have more shine. It's from the Procolor range still, and I use it on all the small pustules or eyes or everything. On the gut also, and also on the puff of smokes coming out of his mouth and hand. So I want the recesses to be lighter than the rest on this this projectile to give it a sensation of it evolving towards the end of it. So to enhance that, I come back with a mix of ivory and turquoise. This is to give a brighter color in the recesses. I thin my pen heavily to create a wash for it to fall down in all the nooks and crevices of the zones, and it will give it an aerial effect. I also use a similar mix on all the tubes to create the glowing effect as we spoke about earlier. So again, you want the recesses to be lighter to create this glowing effect. So to add to the shittiness effect on the legs and all the other zones I want to be that way, I'll come back with an orange. It's from the Molotov range. They are normally paint to reload the paint pens you can find in retail. So this is done to boost the color on the base of those areas while keeping the black on the extremity, again creating an insect-like aspect. I even cover the base to have all of it be a shade of orange. Then I come back with an even more intense orange on the base to create yet some more contrast and have the zone be very much intense. So the movement I use to paint is very simple, but you still need to be careful to limit where you apply it with each pass. This is what will create texture and transition on the Mini, so it's very important to be careful there. I come back with ivory, cut with a bit of red to create a pink, kind of. I will use that on the bowels, the face. This is done to have them stand out, because they are quite important. Now I use some red to give some more intensity to the red areas. So the bowels, so between the really dark areas and the orangey ones of the shitting as well. And all of this will give those areas a great intensity of red and will make them stand out even more from the armor thanks to a bit more contrast. I will then use a bit of ivory on almost every part of the Mini. Every zone that I deem necessary, that is. So the face, the clothes, the flesh. I want those areas to be marked well with light and have them stand out even more. A quick shout out to the Dingue de Jeu. Pierre was messing around with Moan while he was recording in the original video. The channel is in French, but it has tons of hidden content. It's very good. I highly recommend it as well. So I don't hesitate to come back with black for demarcation between different areas. I come back with white as well, switching up in between the two as I go there. You will see it in an instant. So there, you can see I use ivory there. So I always switch back between the two to have all the areas stand out from one another. The Nurgle minis from the new box are quite complicated. It's nice, but it does require a lot of patience to have each detail stand out. There I come back to weather my copper. To do so, I use scaly green mixed with ivory. This is to create a verdigris effect on the armor. So I'll do it several times with more white with each pass. If the result is too intense, you can come back with some more scaly green in the end to dull it down. So again, thank you to the Warg Tavern for their support. Also, don't forget to check my Patreon. Each month there will be a giveaway. You'll get a ticket for it every $5 given. The winner will receive one of the mini I painted during the month or even prior to that. I'll come back and boost the orange even more there. As always, repetition is the key to intensity of color. Then I come back, so I come back with a very luminous orange. Then I come back on the verdigris with even more white. So there I want to give my metal a bit more life and to have them boosted a bit. So I come back with some colors on it to have them stand out a bit. So there we will use ivory again to give intensity to the light spots. So repetition again. The paint is milky as always. So it is a bit tedious, but it's what will separate a good result from a great one. So don't sweat it and just go with it. So I add some blue on the entrails to add some volume as well. To finish, I will use the X27 from Tamiya. It's usually used to create a blood effect. There I use an old brush that still has a fine tip. I tap it on the bows and the guts, all the zone, the face as well. It will give them a shiny aspect and it will separate it from the armor, giving a nice effect. So thank you all for watching. A special shout out to my supporters on Patreon that really helped me to do these videos in better condition. Thank you to Morjan, Corentin and Rémi as well for the support in the translation. Don't hesitate to give me a shout out if you want to help me with the edits. And as always, don't forget to find some time to paint. See ya!